Prayers up, blessings up, man. So look, in this video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about permaculture. I'm doing this video because I'm launching my new book, The More We Grow, The More We'll See. Everything we need is free. And I'm gassed up about it. But why I'm doing this because in the book, I didn't really go into the details of permaculture because I personally haven't practiced it, but I'm learning about it in preparation for when I got the space to actually practice it. We're actually renting at this house. And as you can see, we got the trees right here. And so I give away these fruit trees, and most of these trees I grew from seed. So, you know, we got them all in pots just because, like I say, we're renting. But in the future, I'm going to be putting trees in the ground on our property. And permaculture, to sum it up, I'm super fascinated with it because it reflects nature, and you're working with nature. And you can set up your property. If you do it right, you'll set up your property. And it might take you 4 or 5 years to get to this point, but you could set it up and plant the right type of plants to where for over 100 years, 200-300 years, you'll always have food outside and you don't have to keep replanting. And so there's somebody that I want to kind of introduce you to that I've come across on YouTube that specializes in it. So I'm going to drop his link. His name is actually Andrew Milson. And so I'm going to drop his link in this video. So let's walk around while I'm doing this. So I'm going to drop his link to a video where he explains what he's done with his property. And he built out his property, and it's like 1/3 of an acre that he uses.
Welcome to my permaculture garden. After 15 years, this place is dripping with abundance. There is so much food here. And in this video, I'm gonna share with you the 5 key design strategies that have kept this garden thriving. Strategy number 1, create productive edges. On the sidewalk, we've got the trees, vines, shrubs, flowers, all creating this solid corridor of food for me and for my community to enjoy. Let's go check out the front yard, where you can clearly see the second design strategy: plant food everywhere. This is the typical size of a suburban American lot. This was all just a lawn with a row of rose bushes. Now there's food everywhere.
So the way he has done his property is he took 1/3 of an acre and look how much he did with it. And he's practicing permaculture principles with that property. Everything natural. And he actually, you could follow him and check out his content. He's super educational. You know, I soak up game from him. You know what I mean? And another person that I want to introduce you to on this video is a couple from Australia that I came across recently. Super fascinating what they've done. They got more space than him. Super fascinating what they have been able to do with their house and keeping everything natural. They're basically living off the land over there, and it's super interesting.
I'm Sue Dennett, and this is my partner David Holmgren, and we're here at Meliodora in Hepburn in central Victoria.
So Meliodora is situated on the edge of Hepburn Springs, which is a very small town of a few thousand people. So we're effectively in a suburban street, but on 2 1/4 acres, just under a hectare of land. In building with a permaculture design framework, we took it for granted that the area immediately around the house would be intensive food production. The primary vegetable growing areas, high value trees, maybe trees that actually need a special microclimate like kiwis and other things that will help the microclimate of the house, and also that need a lot of attention that are close to where you can see them. That also has the spin-off that creates an environment which is naturally fire retardant. And it's also part of the microclimate modification. So the grapevine arbor on the north side is a critically important part of the shading structure, which is there in the summer and the autumn, but not there in the spring and winter. So works with the passive solar design.
And that's another example of practicing permaculture in a different place of the world. And then also there's this dude, his name is weird to pronounce. It's like Geoff Lawton, but super interesting dude. And he gives an example of a food forest.
Well, we're all quite familiar with forests and forests as an ecosystem with great diversity of plants, animals and fungi, all harmonizing together and interreacting in many, many niches and layers, designed by nature, maintained as a system in perfect balance. Well, imagine that as a system that produces food. The majority of the elements in that system being productive. That's a food forest. So by understanding how nature designs forest systems so they're self-maintaining, self-replicating, we can model that system with productive species so that we can produce food in the most sustainable way with the minimum amount of input for the maximum amount of output anywhere in the world. That's a food forest system that we can actually design and work with in long-term and permanent situations.
And that to me is the most fascinating sector of permaculture. And that's what I want to do with our property when we move. I want to have enough space where I can make a full forest around the house. So a full forest is where you start growing your trees first, and then you do your mid-level growth. And you're doing that to basically be able to chop. It grows fast, things that grows fast, and it'll have a lot of nitrogen for the soil. And you chop that down and you keep putting it to the ground. So you keep adding nutrients to the ground and get ready for the next level of plants. And then you have the trees that produce fruit, then you have the mid-level things that are useful, and also that you could chop and drop on the ground and make the soil more fertile. And then you have the lower level plants. The plants that he's planting are called perennial plants, and these are plants that keep growing year after year after year, producing year after year after year. So you got like the root plants and stuff that you could drop in the ground, yucca, potatoes, stuff like that, that's gonna just keep on producing for you. So basically, at first you'll have it to where it's like you're not getting that much food because you're focusing on the trees first and the mid-level growth. But 5-6 years in, everything in the food forest is gonna be producing, and it'll keep on producing for hundreds of years. And so, man, that's what gassed me up about permaculture. I'm going to be taking a deep dive into permaculture when we move, and I'm going to be growing like hands-on with it. In the meantime, I wanted to mention this for the book and for people that are thinking about growing, because a lot of people that I'm sure that get this book, you're like me. I started growing food 3 years ago. Look, we got the garden right here growing this lettuce. And that's why I named the book, The More We Grow, The More We'll See. Everything We Need Is Free. Because we got these lettuce seeds from lettuce plants that we grew last year. We got some arugula and different type of butter lettuce and stuff that's going. And you know what I mean? Just rosemary is growing on the house. I could take a piece of this rosemary, cut it, put it in the ground, it'll grow another tree. You feel me? And then, yeah. So then, that's what I did with this kale right here. I just took clippings from the kale, dropped it in the ground, and I was growing another kale plant. But the point what I'm trying to make is that, I had to start somewhere, so I started with pots. And, I talk about it in the book. The purpose of this book is to make the principles easy to understand. Growing food really ain't that hard. We can start in an apartment, even if you start with pots. It's good to start somewhere and start to see the process of caring for plants. Because this made me a better person. I know it's going to make you a better person. But then also it's good to have a vision for the future. Because you might be in an apartment now, but who knows where you'll be 10 years from now. So if you start the process of learning now and practicing now, by the time you do move, you'll be ready to take full advantage of the space you got. If that made sense, man, let me know in the comments. Now, what I'm gonna do also, I'm gonna put the links for these videos in the description for you can go and you can study them for yourself and soak up the game. You feel me? Anyways, prayers up, blessings up.